Hey everyone, and welcome back to Meteorology Matters. It seems like, well, everywhere you look these days, the weather's making headlines, and, sometimes not for good reasons.
Yeah, that's for sure. We've had quite a run of intense events lately, haven't we?
Yeah, we really have, and we're going to kind of dive into a couple of those today, kind of dissect what happened and what's maybe on the horizon too.
Sounds good.
So, let's start with what happened down in South Texas and across the border into Mexico. Um, I mean, the pictures and videos coming out of there are just, well, they're hard to believe.
I know. You see those rainfall totals and I don't know, it's hard to wrap your head around it. Over 20 inches of rain in what, like 48 hours?
Yeah, Thursday and Friday, bam, just like that. I mean, think about it. That's like half a year's worth of rain for some of those areas. Just poof, 2 days.
Yeah, it's just an incredible amount of water in such a short period of time. And the thing is, that much water that fast, it just doesn't have anywhere to go. Right, and that's when you start to see the real trouble, the flooding, the rescues, tragically even, loss of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've already had confirmation of at least 4 deaths related to this flooding, 3 in Hidalgo County, Texas,
Yeah.
and then 1 just across the border in Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico.
And the stories coming out are heartbreaking, right? People needing to be rescued from their homes, cars stranded. I saw a picture of a fire truck almost totally underwater.
I saw that one too, and another one, a couple of those big passenger buses completely submerged.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, it gives you a sense of just how quickly things went bad.
Yeah, no kidding. It's not like a little puddle in the road. This was serious flooding. And, beyond that immediate danger, you've got the long-term impacts too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're hearing reports of pretty widespread damage to homes and businesses, flooded out, just wrecked.
And it's not just the structures either, right? The agricultural impacts, the crops, the livestock. That's people's livelihoods.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's going to take a while to bounce back from. Hidalgo County actually declared a local disaster, to try to get resources flowing to where they're needed most.
Yeah, that's a huge step in starting the recovery process, getting things back on track. We actually heard from a couple of residents down there. One was a guy named Victor, lives in Primera, Texas.
Oh, yeah. What do you have to say?
Well, he was saying, they're kind of used to bad weather down there, but this was just different. The speed, the amount of water, it just came on so fast. He said it brought back a lot of memories of past storms, kind of that feeling of helplessness.
Makes sense. Especially for folks who have been through this kind of thing before. It must bring back a lot of, I don't know, anxiety, maybe even trauma.
Yeah, no question. It's a long road to recovery, both physically and mentally. But, while they're dealing with the aftermath of that down south, we've got another weather story brewing that we need to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. We've got well, I guess you could call it a multi-day severe weather event shaping up across a big chunk of the central and eastern U.S.
So not just your average afternoon thunderstorms. This is something a little more serious.
Exactly. We're talking about the potential for strong tornadoes,
Hmm.
the kind that can cause significant damage, also large hail, maybe even baseball-sized in some areas, and then those damaging straight-line winds, that can knock down trees and power lines.
Okay, so where exactly are we talking about here? Where should people be on high alert?
Well, today, Sunday, the main area of concern is kind of a swath from northern Louisiana all the way up to just south of Chicago. I mean, that's a big chunk of real estate.
And that's the area with the highest risk, right? Like most
Right.
likely to see this really severe weather.
Right. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, their Storm Prediction Center, they've actually issued an enhanced risk for that area. So yeah, if you're anywhere in that zone, today's the day to be paying extra close attention to the weather.
Definitely, definitely. So, all right, what about tomorrow, Monday? Does this thing just fizzle out or?
No, it doesn't fizzle out. It actually kind of shifts eastward. So by Monday, it's the eastern seaboard that needs to be on guard. And it's a big area. It could be anything from New England down to Florida.
Okay, so that's what, like 1,000 miles of coastline?
Pretty much, yeah. But it seems like the Carolinas and Georgia, that's where the most concentrated risk is for, those damaging wind gusts and maybe some isolated tornadoes.
But there's a chance it could go further north too, right?
Yeah, there's a chance. The forecast models are still a little iffy on this, but there's a chance that tornado risk could extend up into the mid-Atlantic, maybe even towards D.C. and Baltimore.
So that's something to watch for sure.
Definitely. And, it's interesting, right? We've got this massive flooding event down south, and then this totally separate system cranking up severe weather in a totally different part of the country.
It's a good reminder, isn't it, that weather is just a powerful force. We can't control it, but we can prepare for it.
Exactly. And, speaking of preparing, it might be a good time to talk about Well, the why behind all this, like what's causing this whole severe weather outbreak.
Yeah, let's do that. So break it down for us. What's going on up there in the atmosphere?
So the main driver here is this big dip, or trough, in the jet stream way out west over North America. And these dips, they often lead to the formation of low-pressure systems down at the surface.
And in this case, we've got a low-pressure system over Kansas.
Right. And it formed on Saturday, western Kansas. And that low-pressure system, it's kind of like a vacuum cleaner. It's sucking all this warm, moist air up from the Gulf of Mexico.
And that's the fuel, right, for the thunderstorms.
Exactly. Warm, moist air, that's what thunderstorms love. So as that low-pressure system moves east, which it is, it's dragging all that juicy Gulf air with it.
So it's headed towards the Great Lakes, right, and then eventually into Canada.
That's the track, yeah. And then behind it, you've got this cooler, drier air coming in. And that clash, that boundary where those two air masses meet, that's where you get the fireworks, the thunderstorms.
Okay, so we've got the fuel, we've got the clash of air masses. What else is making these storms so potent?
Well, there's also something called wind shear. And that's basically when the wind speed or direction changes with height, as you go up in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And the jet stream, it's packing some pretty strong winds up high.
So the jet stream is helping to create this wind shear.
Exactly. And wind shear is important because it can make thunderstorms rotate. And when thunderstorms rotate, you get what are called supercells.
And supercells, those are the ones that can spawn tornadoes, right?
That's right. They're the ones that can produce the most intense, severe weather, tornadoes, large hail, the whole shebang.
So bottom line, if you're anywhere in the central or eastern U.S. right now, keep an eye on the sky, keep an eye on the forecast, and be prepared, just in case.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Have a way to get weather alerts, know where you'd go if a tornado warning is issued, be ready.
Absolutely. And, to kind of wrap things up for everyone today, we've talked about two very different but both very serious weather events. Down in South Texas and Mexico, the incredible flooding, over 20 inches of rain in some areas, just unbelievable. We talked about the tragic loss of life, 3 people in Hidalgo County, Texas, and 1 in Reynosa, Mexico.
And, all those rescues, hundreds of them, people needing to be pulled from flooded homes and cars. Those images of Harlingen and Tamaulipas, just incredible.
Yeah.
And then the damage, not just to homes and businesses, but to crops and livestock. It's a long road to recovery for those communities.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, shifting gears completely, we've got this severe weather threat ramping up across the central and eastern U.S. Sunday, that's today, is the day of highest concern, especially for that zone from northern Louisiana up to just south of Chicago. Strong tornadoes, large hail, damaging winds, it's all on the table.
And then by Monday, the focus shifts eastward, hitting the eastern seaboard, from New England down to Florida. But with the Carolinas and Georgia looking like the bullseye for the worst of it. Could even see some tornadoes up towards D.C. and Baltimore, though that's still a bit uncertain.
And, we talked about the why behind all this, the dip in the jet stream, that low-pressure system over Kansas, pulling up all that warm, moist air from the Gulf, the clash of air masses, the wind shear. It's like a recipe for severe weather, unfortunately.
It is, yeah. But the good news is we can see it coming, and we can prepare.
Exactly. So be sure to check your local forecasts, have a plan in place, and stay safe out there. And for more in-depth weather coverage, you can follow meteorologist Rob Jones on Instagram @meteorologist, on TikTok @tvmeteorologist, and on YouTube, follow Rob Jones Hurricane, where you can also find the Meteorology Matters podcast playlist. Stay informed, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.